All right, hello, and today I'm going to be going over blueprint classes. I'm going to be going over all of the different types, at least the base different types. There's over 900 different possible types of blueprint classes to cover, so I will not be covering 900 anything. um, let's start off with the basic one, which is the actor class. Naming convention, at least my naming convention, is BP underscore followed by whatever it may be. This is going to be called Actor EX. Let me open that up. And blueprints, let's take a step back real quick. Blueprints, in and of themselves, are basically what makes up the game, what makes up the world, what makes up the different coding possibilities in here. Blueprints, for every case of the word, are the blueprints of the world. Have it be the blueprints of actors, the blueprints of game modes, the blueprints of... You'll see in this video. But let's start off really basic here with the actor blueprint, and they're all gonna look pretty similar. You're gonna have a viewport in the middle of the screen, a construction script, and an event graph, and I'll go over what those are right now. But let's stick to the viewport for now. The viewport is just a representation of what it is that you are making in 3D space. So, for example, by default, an actor has nothing. It has no mesh. It has nothing. It is quite literally just an empty class waiting to be given all these different things. So blueprints and actor blueprints, you have your components here, and components are what make up your actual actor, itself. And this is just like, a little placeholder image to show you where the origin is. Just think of it as like another gizmo of sorts. And here on the side where it has components, you can just click add, and this is how you access all of your different things that you'd want to add. So we're going to be touching on them a little bit here, but actor components or actor component blueprints is what I want to call them. Those, for example, can be attached here. You can have special actor components that you can search up here, and it'll be like health and stamina component, and then I'd click that, and it would just add it onto here. For this one, what I want to do is I want to give it a static mesh, right? I'm not going to rename it or anything. Now, you may be asking, what is this static mesh component? Well, what this is just saying that we want this blueprint, in this case an actor, we want this actor to have a mesh, and we want that mesh to be static. If this was a character blueprint, I'd probably want a skeletal mesh, so on and so forth. And they follow hierarchy systems here, so you can parent, unparent as you need. And in static meshes, I'm just going to give it, I don't know, door. That's a cube, but we'll go for it. So now this actor has a static mesh. This is its visual representation, and this is where you'd see it. And down here, this section here is more for the event graph and the construction strip. These are just different variables and different planes of editing that you can have, which I will go over in just a second. And over here on the right is the details. So as you saw, when we selected our static mesh, the pop-up would be here on the right here at this drop-down, static mesh. And this is where I'd put it. Same thing with material. I can change the material to be whatever it may be. Give it a little glow, give it this, give it that, whatever I want to do. I can change all of it here in the details panel. This can get even deeper depending on what you're making, what you're doing, what your components are. You could do custom things that will pop up here in the details panel that you can edit on the fly for things like your actor components. And moving on from giving it a mesh and giving it this and giving it that. We can go on and on. Like I said, you could give it audio, you could give it a light, you could make this whatever you want. So Actors specifically are just the base of the base. They don't have any direction. They are just actors. They might be able to become, controlled. They might be able to do this. They might be able to do that. But at the end of the day, these are going to be what you see, your lighting, your what have you. This would be your lamps. This would be this would be that. And then basically what you would want to do with these actors after you make them is just drag them into the world, position them, whatever you want to do, change the origin in the actor class, whatever it is that you desire, you could do with actors. And these are definitely more like static placeholders or things that you can interact with. Things like think of items in video games. Item in video games, most of the time in Unreal Engine, are derived from the actor class. So all of the different items that could be thrown around in the world, a banana, what have you, those will be these actor classes. And then you give them the ability to be picked up and what to do when they're being picked up, and all of that is handled here in the event graph. Now, the event graph is this big, huge open area that you have an endless expanse on. You can zoom out for miles and miles and miles and create these endless, beautiful strings of code. Sometimes it looks like spaghetti. It all depends on how organized you are. But yeah, the event graph is just something that you're given right away, and we'll just go ahead and delete these two things just for the sake of simplicity, and we'll be left with this. Now, before I explain what this is, let me go back to the basics and say that this thing, these things, whatever you want to call them, all of these things, they are nodes. And what nodes are just little pockets of code, I guess you could call them. They run a command, or they signal the start of a command, or so many other things. And for example, this one here is event begin play. Now, an event is signaling the start of something. If I create an event, I can call the event whatever I want. Custom event. Ding dong sound event. Right? Now, this will never play. This custom event will never play. Right? This begin play starts once the game is in motion. Once I press this test, this goes off almost right away. If the actor is in the scene, this goes off right away. If this actor is not in the scene, or whatever may have you, if it is not loaded, then this will not register. This won't do anything, as it's not being called upon in the level. But yes, if it's in the level, this starts up, and this one is a custom event, and it's pretty much the same exact thing. The only thing is there's no trigger to make this happen yet. For this, I could drag this out and play sound at location. Select the sounds, pretend I had a sound there, and then I'll get actor location, plug that in right there. And now, whenever I play this event, or whenever I call this event, the ding dong sound would play. Pretend I had a ding dong sound there. And it would play at the actor's location. So it's getting its world origin and plugging it in, and that would be where the sound is. And the way that you want to make these events happen for things like begin play, right? For things like interaction, they would all be events that are called upon by different things. They could be signals sent by other objects. They could be the player. They could be the actor itself. It could go off on a timer. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that in an event where you want something to trigger, you just drag off and you type in that event name. And now that event gets turned into a function. This event is a function, which means now at event begin play, the ding dong sound effect will play. At the actor's location, it will run this set of codes. This event is this thing. They are one and the same. This is what it is. This is the definition. This is the trigger. Or this is the definition. This is the action. This is the trigger. Now, things that, this can get as deep as we want it to be. We can set up flickering effects, which might be better off in materials or, what have you. It's all up to you. There's a million ways to do all kinds of different things. And, we could keep building out on this same event graph. We could keep spaghetti coding, or we have a few tidy up options. We could right click or we can drag on these things. We could right click and then we can collapse these nodes. And this becomes a collapse graph. We open that up and boom, that collapse graph is now, it's now a whole nother event graph with just these codes and this code in there. And now it's the same as the event graph, but it's kept in this little pocket here. We can even rename this to inputs, right? Just for an example. So now when we click this is where all of our inputs are kept in. And then we have another one, and that's attack logic, and that's where all the attack logic is kept, and so on and so forth. The options are endless, and it keeps them in these beautiful little things, and you can color code them to however you want, name them whatever you want, or you can go here straight to graphs, add a whole new event graph, name it da, and boom. Just like that, you have a whole nother event graph. And you do still have access to all of your functions, access to everything that you had in this graph, in the construction graph, in anything. It's all connected. It's all the same. It's all being kept within the same blueprint, which is this actor example blueprint. So these are functions. These are events. This is how the world is moved. This is how things happen. And we can go over macros, we can go over the variables and everything, and event dispatchers. But for right now, I just want to get through the basics and teach you guys what exactly you're looking at, so that way you can better see where you want to mess around with or explore. Because there's so many different avenues that you really gotta hone in what exactly it is that you want to study in Unreal Engine. But yeah. So this is the actor blueprint class, and moving on now, we have the pawn blueprint class. Same naming convention, BP pawn EX. And it's looking very similar. It's looking very, very similar. We can give it the same kind of things. We could give it this, we could give it that. We could turn this into whatever we want. Now, what makes this different from this? Well, a few things. One of the main things being is that when you have a pawn in the world, when you have an actor in the world, they're pretty static. They can be interacted with, of course, but they're static. Pawns, they can be controlled not only by the player, but by AI, by whatever it is that you need this to be taken care of. The pawn is one of the play pieces. You could pick your construction graph and the event graph. Everything here is identical, and you're going to find that everything is identical in a lot of these. All that changes is their base features. For actors, it's no base features. For pawns, it's the ability to be controlled. For the next one on our list, which is going to be the character class, this is going to be what you are, what maybe other players are, classes. It could be all kinds of things that character can be. And when we go in there, this one actually looks a little different. Well, we have a capsule collision cylinder, this front arrow here, a mesh, and a character movement component. Now, all in all, this capsule cylinder component, this is the character. we can give the character a mesh. We could give the character animations and everything. And we could even use the mesh as some of the collision factors, for damage and the like. But right now, at its base form, this capsule is the character. When we move around, when we register getting hit, when we register anything, it's this box. It's this little cylinder running around. And that's all we are. In the game, this is all we are. Unless we deem it to be. Um, and that is the joy of the character class, is right away you're giving this movement component, and this in and of itself is customizable. You can create entire movement components based off whatever you want for different things like flying, different things like walking, anything that you want to change you could do here and customize down to the last detail. And it does have an event graph and your construction and your viewport, and a lot of the times with this being what your player character is going to be made out of, you want to spend a lot of time in this event graph making all these different systems that you really care about. And if it's something broad like health, maybe you shouldn't be doing it in the character's blueprint directly. Maybe you want to be doing things that are more broad like that in character components or what have you. Moving on from characters, we have the player controller. I'm not going to make one, but the player controller is going to look very similar to all the rest of them, but you're going to be able to create inputs, and this is going to be what you use as the base class, and we'll call upon it in our game mode base, but all that matters is that this is just a way of making a controller for a character to inherit. And now we have our blueprint game graph, or our game mode blueprint, and once again looking very similar. We have our event graph, what have you. This is going to be a little bit more hands-on. This is going to be where we design keeping score, and we design the game mode part of it. What exactly will trigger an end, trigger the beginning? What is there going to be something different that happens on start? Is there going to, this would be where we would decide these things. And here on the right is the details panel, and this is where a lot of the bread and butter of this is we could change specific game sessions. We could change what state class we're using, and anything like that. We could set the player controller, we can set the player states, we could set the HUD class. So if we have a HUD and it transitions for everything, so then we can have that there. What is our default pawn? So this would be like BP player, and what's the spectator class, and you'd have all that stuff. This would be where you'd set everything up, especially with the default pawn class being a very important one. Is this is what you're going to be setting every single time that you start this level, and you want it to choose the right things. You want it to scan for the right players, do the right things, keep the right scores. So this one is very important to keep in mind. Next up, we have our actor component, one of the most important things of all time in this entire situation. Now, BP, AC, or you just skip the BP and go straight to AC for actor component. That's my naming convention, and we'll call it health. Now, what an actor component is and why they're so amazing and whatnot is, as you can see, we can't give this one anything. We can't give this one a mesh, nothing like that. There is no components because this is that component. Well, what do we want to do with this? Well, that's easy. We want to put functions in here. We want to put general things, code that we don't want to keep on repeating over and over and over. And now is a good time to introduce variables. See, variables are another very crucial part to blueprints and creating this beautiful code. As when you create a variable, you are creating a check state. You are creating everything. These are your definitions. These are your words. You're giving them definitions. For example, this one I will call max health. And instead of it being a Boolean, I will do it as an integer. Now, compile to load up the code. And now I can set a default value. Default value for max health is going to be 100. Now, let's do one for current health, integer. And that default value doesn't bother me. But say we had something like this set up where we had an event and it's called heal. Well, we want to get our max health, right? And the difference between get and set is get is we're just calling what this is at that time. Setting, we're setting what that thing is. So we're getting our max health. We're saying, okay, what is our max health, right? And we're going to get that. And we are going to say, is our max health greater? Oh, my bad. Our max health greater or equal to our current health. Oops. Our current health. Now, is our max health greater or equal to our current health? It's giving out a Boolean. Booleans are yes and no. So we'll plug that Boolean straight into a branch. So on heal, it runs this check. It checks if the max health is greater or equal to the current health. If it is greater or equal to the current health, we cannot heal, right? So for true, we're just going to leave that blank. For false, we're going to get the current health and we're going to add however much we want to heal by. Let's say 40, right? And then now we want to set the current health using that. So in plain English, this reads as, when I want to heal, I want to run the check to see if my max health is greater or equal to my current health. I guess this shouldn't be max health. I guess what this would be is max health. So we're checking if that is greater or equal to, and if it is not greater or equal to the current health, we increase it by 40. I feel like we want this to be something else, but it doesn't really matter. You know, you get the point. You want to design these things where it's like this. And you have these variables here, and these eyeballs matter. And what this means is when we drag and drop this into another blueprint, or this component is attached to someone else, right? So compile and save, go to the character, and we'll add AC health. There it is. It adds that component straight in. And now, as you can see, we have our access to the max health and our current health. Now, what can we do with that? A lot of things. By right-clicking, by dragging this in, we have access to all of the same variables that were inside this function here. Not only that, I want to say works without it. Yeah. We can call functions directly straight to it. And I guess it summoned it anyways. But either way, we're given a handle to get access to all of this information. Everything inside of this component is now ours. And That's big. That's huge because we can create all these different systems with the variables kept inside of itself and just attach them wherever we need. And they'll separately keep track of things like the health depending on the character, and they'll all do it on their own time in the blueprint that we want to have it be a character, a pawn, an actor. It doesn't matter. Um, so these are all huge things. These are all huge things, and these are all the bases of the game engine. The actor class makes up bits and pieces of the world. The actor component is used to enhance all of the other classes. The character blueprint is for characters and AI. Pawn is extensively for AI and other some such things like crowds, density, everything. And finally, you have game mode blueprints, which are used for defining clear outlines for your games and what they need to be. Have it be the score, the character that you're playing as, what team you're on. They all have their own interests and their own importances, and they're all made up of the same things. They're all blueprint graphs. They're all detailed. They're all the same at a fundamental level, but they use the information that they are given differently. And by that I mean, characters can walk. They have this movement component. Actors don't. So to go about moving an actor would be different than going about moving a character, but simultaneously they could still do. I mean, separately though, they still could do those actions themselves. So I leave you there. Take your time, explore the UI. Explore everything, explore blueprints. Maybe if I was you, what I would start out with is the most basic kind of blueprints, actor blueprints, and I would just start there. I would go in. I would start by giving it a static mesh. And make that mesh the default lamp, or whatever you have access to, whatever you want to download, whatever you think is good for you. Make it. And then make a couple lights. Maybe design a couple street lights. Create things like this. It's not very impressive. And right now it doesn't need to be. Nothing here needs to be impressive. What it needs to be is you. And you need to have the drive to want to explore these different things, and not only blueprints, but everything else, the event graph and components, variables, anything that you're interested in. Take a peek at it all and try to find something in these that you're vibing with. Maybe all you want to do is make street lamps. Maybe all you want to do is create characters and give them animations. Maybe you want to be, a game mode designer where all you're doing is sitting here and designing how this game mode is gonna interact with the world. What's it gonna do? What's it gonna load out? And then you have your level sequence, and we'll get into all that as we go along. But for right now, these are the base blueprint classes. These are gonna be what makes up a lot of the game. And you have your scene component, but we're not going to talk about scene components because they're a lot of the same. It doesn't really matter. It does have its own uses, of course, but for the sake of now, I think this is good enough. This is a good starting point. And don't overwhelm yourself. Take it easy, take it slow. Don't start following YouTube tutorials on how to make the Legend of Zelda climbing systems. Avoid trying to rush it. What you don't want to do is rush it. You want to take it easy, and you want to learn these systems as they go. And they're going to be constantly updating. So something that you're doing now may not be used or may not be done the exact same way. A year, 6 months, who knows? Who knows how long until something gets changed? But don't let that discourage you. All that means is you need to find out and you need to discover the new way that these things interact and how to get around them. And that's how you need to approach the entire engine. Even when you're very first learning, is you need to focus on how do I better understand this concept in the engine? So I'll leave you with that for right now, and I'll be back soon, hopefully, and I'll go over a couple more systems. We might even be able to make something next time, but for right now, I think that's a good place to stop. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.